Welcome to the Don Smith Show, where it's okay to be a conservative. And now here's your host, Don Smith.
Hey, thank you, Brad Smith, for that great introduction. And thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in today for the Don Smith Show, where it's always okay to be a conservative. Hey, we've got a great lineup on the program here today. Congressional candidate Andy Meehan will join me live. He is running for the seat in Pennsylvania's 1st District. Hey, welcome back to the show. My next guest is running for congressional seat in the 1st District of the great state of Pennsylvania. Andy Meehan, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Don, thanks for having me back. Great to be here.
Well, always great to have you here. So let's get right into this. We've got the killing of a terrorist, and we've got the left now seemingly supporting the terrorist. These are crazy times, Andy. What is your take on this whole situation? I think the president is showing strength, kind of back to the Ronald Reagan days. But what is your take on everything and how this is playing out?
Well, my take on this is that this guy, Soleimani, has been around murdering people for decades. He's a Hall of Famer in the same sport that Osama bin Laden played in, which is the murder of Americans in the name of Islam. Just as Osama bin Laden was a legitimate target for Obama, they cheered when we killed him, which was the right thing to do. So Soleimani was a legitimate target for Trump. Now, I won't say that we are going to be any safer with this guy gone, but I will say that we are not less safe with him gone. And it's funny how we didn't hear the left whining when Obama was killing people like Anwar al-Awlaki and his son and hundreds of others with drone strikes. But now, since it's President Trump, what the deal is. And the hypocrisy is just staggering, Don.
Yeah, it really is. And, we were talking earlier on the program here, we were talking about how the Constitution, when it was written, it was not drafted and written as something that was about a person. It was about the office of the presidency, the powers that each branch is going to have. We see the left now, and they seem to be wanting to completely rewrite this Constitution simply based on a single individual, which of course is President Donald Trump. Is this something that concerns you to watch how, they're talking about getting rid of the Electoral College, the War Powers Act, all these kinds of things that they're trying to do to make the Constitution something that can be a tool against the President of the United States of America?
Yeah, and thank God we have our Constitution, Don, and that the founders of this country were so prescient in the way that they structured it. They've been trying all kinds of ways to subvert the Constitution and to ignore the Constitution, treat it that's something that it isn't. So it's so important that President Trump was elected to get judges on the courts that are going to interpret the Constitution the way that it was originally intended. So we need to stand firm with the U.S. Constitution. The Congress has not done anything to support the constitutional principles. If they want to stand up, exert their power under the Constitution, they have a means of doing that by withholding funding and budgeting for the government if they think that wars have been declared without their authorization, which they haven't done anything since 2001, Don. So it's kind of disingenuous that now that President Trump is in, this is all being tried to be turned around and used against him for keeping us safe.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the key things about our country and the rights that we have is our Second Amendment rights. I know you are a huge Second Amendment supporter. We've talked about this before. What are your thoughts? Because we're watching what's taking place here in great state of Virginia, where they're really clamping down. They're going to some extremes here to limit the Second Amendment, and in some cases, you almost take those rights away from the American people. Talk a little bit about that, because this is concerning to many of my listeners, to me as well. I'm sure it is to you as well. And I think, again, this is why it's so important to have people like you in Congress representing the people and protecting our Second Amendment rights. But talk about your concern about what's going on in Virginia and the fact that this could spread throughout the country.
Well, I am proud of our patriots in Virginia that are standing up for their constitutional rights. In the U.S. Constitution, it clearly says that our rights to bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay? Now, if you don't like those words and you don't want to abide by those words, you need to change the Constitution. You can't ignore it, twist it, turn it upside down for your own political purposes. So we need to stand firm on our constitutional rights. The Constitution in the state of Pennsylvania uses the wording shall not be questioned. So it's even stronger, I think, than the U.S. Constitution, but we still see attacks on that in Pennsylvania, where they're trying to pass red flag gun laws, limiting the types of weapons that sportsmen and people and patriots can own. It's just wrong. So our Congressman, Brian Fitzpatrick, that I'm running against, has been recognized by the New York Times as a champion on gun control. He is the poster boy for this No Labels caucus, who is not protecting our Second Amendment right. He votes for these red flag gun laws. He refused to vote for the concealed carry reciprocity law that he said he was going to vote for, and he has some ways of tap dancing around reasons for those votes. He stood on the stage with Nancy Pelosi and these gun-grabbing types many, many times. The people in Bucks County here who are Second Amendment rights advocates are furious and are done with Congressman Fitzpatrick and his failure to stand up for our Second Amendment rights. So I am going to stand up for them.
So I'm going to guess that he has some labels for you, though. Right?
He came out with an attack ad on me last week, Don, which was great because, gosh, I must be doing something right. I'm over the target. I'm getting flack. He calls me in this ridiculous attack ad, Pelosi's pawn. But now get your head around this. I'm a conservative constitutionalist type. He is the Republican, and I use that term loosely because he tells us he doesn't want to be called a Republican himself. He is the Republican in the House of Representatives that votes with Nancy Pelosi more than any other Republican in the House of Representatives, and he's attacking me that I am somebody who attacks Republicans, other Republicans, when he himself voted with the squad and Nancy Pelosi to label President Trump as a racist last summer. He didn't vote for the president. So he comes out with these attack ads that are just so ridiculous, and we're going to use them against him, and I'm looking forward to that, actually.
Well, and there's something else I've been following here recently, following your website and looking at this. There's a chance here. So one of the things with President Trump coming in was we had an opportunity to kind of change the makeup, if you will, of the Supreme Court of the United States. There's a chance here, Andy, to look at Roe v. Wade and possibly overturn this. And this is something that was unheard of before President Trump got in, and we've got some new people on the Supreme Court. But I know you and Congressman Fitzpatrick are on opposite sides of this. Tell me where you stand and where does your opponent stand?
Well, that's a great point. Last week, Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania came out in favor of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which I support. I think it was the Supreme Court jumping the guardrails of the Constitution and writing laws from the bench. Congressman Fitzpatrick is silent on the issue, and I am for the reversal of Roe v. Wade, returning the decisions on abortion back to the states where it should be under the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. And again, this is something I think this is really important, and I think it doesn't get enough attention. We look at the federal judges that President Trump has put in place. I mean, just a record. Every year he's broken a record for the number of federal judges appointed and confirmed. I think this is huge. I think the Supreme Court is huge, and it gives us an opportunity to really look at some of these things. What are your thoughts about that, about what President Trump has done with the federal judges and the Supreme Court justice, and the fact that we now as conservatives have some hope to look at things like Roe v. Wade and other issues going forward?
Yeah, well, I was one of these Republicans who did not support President Trump in the primary in 2016. I was a Ted Cruz guy. After President Trump won that, I got on board with him 100%, but my really only hope for President Trump was I didn't know what he was going to do. Nobody really knew, I don't think. But the one thing that I hoped for was that we would win and Hillary would not get in there to appoint judges, and that President Trump would get in there and toe the line with these judges from these lists that he had put out before the election that he would select from. Darn if he didn't go and do what he said he was going to do, like he has done with all other things. So I think that's the one thing that the president has really solidified with the people, is that he's the only politician that I've seen in a long time that's actually going there to do what he said he was going to do. And part of that was this fantastic staffing the Supreme Court and all the other judgeships with conservatives that are going to respect our Constitution and not walk all over it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't let you go without asking you about this. We saw some amazing economic developments here this week. Pretty good jobs number, but watching the Dow top 29,000 for the first time. I know you're a financial guy, business guy. What are your thoughts on this? Because I think this is really going to impact the voter, right? If you're a voter out there and you've got the 401k and all your things are doing good and the economy's good, you've got a good job, it's pretty tough to run against this. We hear all the Democrats say, "Oh no, it's really not that good. Middle class is being killed." As comments that I've heard from them. As a financial business guy, what are your thoughts about what's going on with the Dow, with the jobs, with everything? I mean, this is obviously bodes well for the reelection of President Trump.
Yeah, well, as a financial advisor, I understand this stuff. The stock market is a forward-looking indicator of the expectations of investors. When they see what's going on in the economy, the run-up in the stock market is a reflection that they think things are going to be better in the future. So they buy with the expectation that they're buying and things are going to go up. This is definitely a positive indication. The stock market is not the only indicator of a healthy economy by any means. It's being bolstered by record low unemployment numbers that we have. Corporate earnings are good. People are working. Wages are going up. And the Democrats have nothing on the economic front that they can point to the president other than we're $22 trillion in debt, which obviously is not President Trump's fault. He's responsible for what, $1 trillion of that maybe at this point? So as a fiscal conservative, I am concerned about the level of debt we have, and I want less money being spent out of Washington. I think too much money and power is vested in that city, and it needs to be stripped back and sent back to the states and local communities so that we can walk into the offices of our local elected officials and demand fiscal responsibility and vote them out more easily if they don't give it to us.
Yeah, absolutely, and I couldn't agree more with that. I think that's one thing that I'd like to see President Trump focus on more is the spending, and hopefully in his second term he will do that. You yourself are in a tough race in the great state of Pennsylvania. So for some of my listeners who are concerned about getting the rhinos out, who want to bring in true conservatives to support this president in office, where can they go to help you out and find out more about your campaign?
Thanks, Don. Yeah, we do need contributions to our campaign. We're running a grassroots campaign against a very, very well-funded incumbent who's got lots of money from special interests and lobbyists out of the district. So they can go to my website, Meehan2020.com, and you can donate right there on the website. And for local people here in Bucks County, we're looking for people to come out and help us at the polls and knock on doors and do all those things that leather on the ground, so to speak. But please go to our website, Meehan2020.com, and help us out. We're just the little guys out here fighting to do what's right. I'm just a local businessman who's decided to get off of his bicycle and get in this race because we're not being represented properly. This is the American way here, so somebody's got to stand up and fight, Don.
Absolutely. Always great to have you on. So Meehan2020.com. His name is Andy Meehan. Andy, thanks so much for your time here today, and let's do this again.
Thanks a lot, Don. Really appreciate it.
All right. Andy Meehan, go to Meehan2020.com. Help him out. There's, this is the thing. We're kind of at a point now here where we can finally start working on getting some of these rhinos out of office, and it is so important. I mean, we've seen the effect that this has. We hear the Mitt Romneys every time, and you watch this whole like the Soleimani thing, right, and or the impeachment thing. Take any of these issues, and the left always comes out and says, "Oh, we found an unusual ally with Lisa Murkowski." No. I mean, we all know that every time it's going to be Susan Collins, it's going to be Lisa Murkowski. Before it was John McCain, it's going to be Mitt Romney. It's going to be all these people who are going to come out and question the president. I might go the other way. And so I think the charade is pretty much over as far as an unusual ally and all these headlines you see in the media. So really need to push and get some real strong conservatives in there. And then we can have the courage to go after things like Roe v. Wade, to be more aggressive in protecting our Second Amendment rights, and a lot of different areas this can impact. So again, check out Meehan2020.com. Help Andy out, and love to see him get it and head off to Washington, D.C. That would be absolutely fantastic.
Hi, this is Andy Meehan, and in case you haven't heard, I am doing something extremely difficult but absolutely necessary. I'm a conservative challenging Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick in the Republican primary. On the issues, the congressman and I are worlds apart. Fitzpatrick voted in favor of amnesty for illegal aliens and against securing the border, while I'll oppose any amnesty and make sure the wall is funded. He supports gun bans and unconstitutional red flag laws, while I stand with our gun owners, our Second Amendment rights, and our right to due process. He voted to give a legal right to biological men to access women-only spaces and to compete against them for college athletic scholarships. I believe that women deserve women-only safe spaces in our society and fair competition in sports. He's voted for carbon taxes and the Paris Climate Accords, while I've put in writing my pledge of no new taxes. And Fitzpatrick has consistently supported endless wars in the Middle East. I'll vote to bring our troops home. Some establishment leaders in the Republican Party believe that you are obligated to endorse Congressman Fitzpatrick out of party loyalty. However, he isn't worthy of that loyalty as he has not demonstrated it himself. He voted against President Trump in 2016. He has not committed to supporting the president in 2020, and he voted with Nancy Pelosi to label the president a racist just this past July. He does not stand up for the president or our Republican values. I, on the other hand, as the nominee, will do both. But I need your help. Please go to meehan2020.com/contribute to help me raise the money to win this race. And please also hit the share button to share it with your friends and family so they can see how important this is and they can support me too. This is Andy Meehan, and I approve this message.